Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Escafe Online. Welcome to our live session this morning. Today I'm going to be making a super simple dessert. This is an English dessert. It's called summer pudding, and it's really not pudding, but when it comes to English desserts, a lot of times desserts are referred to as pudding. So this is super easy to make. We're just going to be making a berry compote, which we've made so many times before. We made the similar berry compote with our chantilly cake that we made probably about a month ago. And we're going to be lining our pan with some bread. We're going to pour in the compote, leave it sit overnight, and it's going to be ready to go. What I like about this dessert is, besides that it's delicious, it has a really beautiful color to it, and you can use a variety of berries, whichever you like. We'll talk about that when we start cooking. And it's a nice summertime dessert because it's not really creamy unless you finish it with whipped cream. So it's great for a warm event. It can sit out a little bit, easy to make. You can make it the night before. So let's get started. Okay, so over here on the stove, I've got my berries, and we're just going to make a quick compote here. And we're going to be softening these, and the juices are going to come out. It's going to have some nice liquid that's going to seep into our bread. So please let me know if you have any questions along the way. So I'm just kind of cooking this over a medium heat. I have some berries in here with a little bit of sugar. There's so many variations to this dessert. We'll talk about some of those. Okay, for berries, I've got strawberries, I've got blackberries, I've got raspberries, and I have blueberries in here. And the reason I chose these, I like the flavor combination, I like the colors, I like the strawberry, went a little heavy on the strawberry because a lot of juice comes out of these strawberries, and that's what's going to soak into our cake. Another nice thing to put in here is the currant. If you can get some of those in your market. Like I said, I chose these because I like this combination. I like the purple that comes from the blackberry. And also, this is what looked best in my market yesterday, so I went with what looked best. They didn't have any currant, so I didn't get any, but the currant is classic to this dessert. So if you can get some, tastes great. It's going to add some nice color, and it's going to look super beautiful on top, too. So keep that in mind. You'll want to kind of stick with the berry family, but you can really experiment with some other things. I've put a little bit of pineapple in here before. I've done a little bit of orange. But to get that classic color, you're going to want to stick with some of these berries and some of this purpleness as well from the blackberry. You can get a little bit of that from the raspberry or the blueberry too. Okay, so you're not going to really simmer this much because you don't want to reduce it. You just want to soften these fruits, and you want these juices to come out. So we're going to leave this go for just a little bit longer. And I put some sugar in here. You could use agave if you like. You could even use honey for a different flavor. And some people use fruit juices such as apple. I've seen orange. You could also do a little bit of cranberry. Cranberries work well in this too. So flavor combinations are really limitless. And we're going to be working with an 8-inch cake. And I have about maybe 2.5 to 3 cups of fruit here to start. Just like I said, depending on how full you want it, you can put a little bit more, you can put a little bit less. So this is coming along nicely. This is exactly what we want. See that liquid? It's perfect. Okay, so let's talk about another aspect of this filling. Okay, so I'm going to be putting a little bit of powdered gelatin in here, and I want my filling to not really run out when I cut the cake. And you can put a little bit of gelatin in this, and you can also go without the gelatin too. So it's really a personal preference. I just put about maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon in this amount, and it just kind of helps it set up a little bit. But it's not something that you need to do. It's kind of an option. Okay. So keep in mind too, when you're using the gelatin, your juices may not seep into your bread all the way. So that's another thing to consider. So you might want to save a little bit extra juice in case some of your cake in case some of your bread is not the berry color, and then you can pour a little bit over once you serve it. Okay, so I just softened my gelatin in a little bit of cold water. Since this mixture is nice and warm, we're going to go ahead and add that to the mixture, and it's going to dissolve. So please let me know if you have any questions. You guys are kind of quiet. Okay, so this is looking perfect. Let's go ahead and add our gelatin. Like I said, this is really a personal preference on the gelatin. It's something that I like to use, but you don't necessarily have to. You're going to see some of these recipes without this. Okay, so we're just going to kind of leave this sit off to the side, and we're going to prepare our pan. So as far as the pan, it's really limitless, the shapes and sizes that you can make. I'm just going to be using a regular 8-inch cake pan, and I'm going to be lining it with some bread that I just cut the crust off. Always cut the crust off because you don't want that, that brownness unless it's a look that you want, but it's going to be a little bit cleaner look. And I kind of let my bread sit out overnight a little bit. You can toast it a little bit, but I usually just leave it sit out overnight so it can dry a little bit. You can use your brioche mold for this, and you can make these individual. You can use a bowl. There's just a variety of shapes and sizes that you could make. So I've got my pan ready, so we are going to go ahead and line the pan. Okay, so I've lined my pan with plastic. Make sure that you're doing this because it's going to be so much easier to get this cake out. So what you're going to do is you're just going to, I usually, I start around the sides with this one. And just kind of get it in here and get these as close as I can. I kind of press them in a little bit too. And I'm not hearing any questions. Anyone have any questions today? Everyone is so quiet.
Chef Susie, I might have missed it, but is that white bread?
Yes, it is. I may have not mentioned it. You're going to want to use white bread. Some people use cake. It's going to add some sweetness, and you can definitely experiment a little bit, but classically this is done with just plain white bread. And like I said, I let this sit out overnight, and it has a little bit of a dryness to it. You can toast it a little bit, but be careful not to toast it too much. And what you can do is you can either squish these together, or you can kind of trim the bread a little bit. I'm a squisher. So I just kind of, if there's a spot, I'm going to get my bread in there. I'm going to squish it because I don't like to have all those gaps. Okay. So then just line the bottom. You might have to do a little bit of cutting with the bottom. It's not quite as easy as the ends. But as you can see, I'm not really trimming it to any roundness. I'm just kind of pushing it in that spot. So, you know, it'll be a little resistance, but you'll get it in there. Okay, so any questions?
Will wheat bread work too?
Sure, it will. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to have a little different texture. You'll have the speckles in it. It's going to have that earthiness, but yeah, definitely. And things like I said, some people use cake. To me, that's just a little too sweet, but it's whatever you're looking for. And maybe you could even use something like brioche bread, something a little richer and something a little more eggy. Okay, so I'm just going to be filling in some of these little gaps, and the juice from the fruit is going to kind of, I guess you could say, kind of squish this together a little bit, but you don't want any big gaps, but it's not anything that you have to make perfect at all. Okay, so next I'm going to show you one of my little tricks. Okay, so oftentimes you'll see this, if the fruit filling is a little bit looser, when it's unmolded, you'll kind of see it where it kind of caves in the center a little bit, which is okay. It's just a classic look. But what I usually do is I'll put 2 extra pieces of bread in the middle, and then I don't have that caving. But it's really whatever you like. And like I said, that's a classic look. But I'm going to, it looks like I don't have quite enough maybe for the top. So I'm going to hold off on doing that this time, but that's an option. You can go ahead and put 2 slices right in the center, and that's going to help keep that center up when you unmold it. Okay, so we're almost done. See how easy it is. Okay, so nextly, we are just going to pour this in. It's a little warm because I just made it. I would, you know, if you're making this at home, leave it cool off a little bit more. You don't want it to be too warm, but we'll go ahead and get it together. So what we do is we just pour this in the center, and then we're going to be topping it with our bread, and then it's pretty much done. So like I said, super easy dessert, really beautiful, nice for summertime. It's not really a pudding, but that's what they call it when you have it in England. Okay, so next we're just going to be putting our top layer on. You can make this as thick as you want. Like I said, you can make it in a different mold and make it thicker. It's really just a preference. Okay, so does anyone have any questions on this? And as you can see, it's a super easy dessert to make, and it's just really beautiful when these liquids soak into the bread. Another option too, I've seen this made before with raisin bread, something a little bit different, so keep that in mind too. So you can be kind of creative with your flavors.
Chef Susie, are you going to make that a double layer, or are your sides that much taller?
Yep, my sides are a little tall, so what I'm going to do is I am going to trim them off. So you could probably make a double layer. I think that's kind of a fun idea, but I was just planning on making a single layer today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to trim these off. I kind of got a little carried away with my bread. And I don't trim it too close. So there's going to be some settling here. So please tell me what you're thinking about maybe some flavors. Do we have any thoughts? We had a question, are you able to use a flavored gelatin? And I think that would be kind of fun to do something like that. I think that you could. Be mindful with the flavored gelatins that they've got sugar in them, so you may want to cut back on your sugar just a little bit, but you really wouldn't be using that much. But I think that's a great idea. Maybe some orange, or even, you know, one of the berries or the cherry. Cherries are a nice addition to this dessert too.
Can you use pitted fruit? Like a peach pit?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you could use a peach. And I think that would be nice. A nectarine would be nice too, an apricot. Those are fruits that don't have a lot of liquid in them, so I think that would work out nicely. Okay, so now we're off to the next step. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to cover this with plastic. And then you're going to weight it down, and you're going to refrigerate it overnight. If you don't have time to refrigerate it overnight, I would say it at least needs to be refrigerated for maybe 4 or 5 hours. But ideally, overnight is perfect because it gives it a chance to, you know, settle and set up, and it gives those juices a chance to be absorbed into your bread. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to weight this down when you put it in the refrigerator. And that's just going to help it out along its way. So what you can do is you can use a plate, or you can use a cake circle, or I have a pan that works perfect. It fits perfectly in here, and it's just barely touching. So you want to put something, maybe the weight of a can in here. And that's just going to help it. And then just put it in the refrigerator. Like I said, overnight is perfect, or if you don't have time, at least 4 to 5 hours to let these juices soak into the bread. So that is it. Does anyone have any questions? So it was super easy to do. It's a nice dessert. It looks really beautiful. I made one earlier. We're going to set this aside, and we're going to go ahead and unmold the one that I made earlier. So what I did is I just, I cut a cake circle, and then I had my can on top of here, and this was my weight for this. So as you can see, it's a super beautiful color. And you want to, you know, if you have some of this compote left, you'll want to save a little bit in case you have any spots that didn't soak in, and then you can just kind of soak them a little bit. But it's a beautiful color. And since it has the plastic lining, it makes it really easy to unmold this. So I'm just doing this right onto a circle. You can do this right onto a plate, whatever you like. And you really shouldn't have any sticking. There might be a little resistance, but here we go. We got it out of the pan. Looks beautiful. It's a nice purple color. We've got a couple spots that didn't soak in. Maybe I needed to leave it soak a little bit longer, as I mentioned, but we're going to put some berries on there, dress it up, and this is our summer pudding. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it on our plate. And I usually just decorate this with some fresh berries and a little bit of mint. You can put a little bit of whipped cream as well. And please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I've got some nice mint here. I've got some berries. Super easy dessert. You could even serve this. I've seen it with ice cream before, so that is nice as well. So we're getting ready to say our goodbyes. Please let me know if you have any questions on the summer pudding. It's a nice English dessert. If you've ever heard of a restaurant that was in California, it was called Star's Restaurant. Very famous, legendary chef Jeremiah Tower had that restaurant, and this was on his menu as well. So if it's one of his desserts that he likes, it's definitely one of mine. Okay, so we've got some fresh mint on here. I'm going to finish this off with some berries and a super nice summertime dessert. Okay, just about done. So let me know if you have any questions. If not, we'll be seeing you next time.
It's really pretty, but I can't get over the bread taste. Would you use, if you used a sponge, could you just make it with maybe less sugar?
You could, yeah. I know it's kind of hard to get past the bread, but definitely taste it because there's a lot of flavor in the filling, and oftentimes English desserts aren't really sweet. So if you wanted to sweeten it up a little bit and use your cake, I think that's a great idea. Okay, so we're going to say our goodbyes, and we'll see everyone next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chef.
You're welcome.